Welcome. Welcome to another episode of The Impact of AI and Big Data. I'm your host, Melissa Drew, and today we have Himali Kumar. She is from AutoZone and a director of data management. But before we get into diving into our conversation with her, this podcast would not be available without our sponsors. This week, our sponsor is Wilda, Women Leaders in Data and Artificial Intelligence. Welcome, Himali.
Thank you, Melissa. Nice to meet you here.
You have been in your career for probably just as long as I have, which we're still young, so
Yeah.
that's saying a lot. But it does mean that you have a lot of experience, and you've gained your experience from a variety of different areas to lead to where you are today. I'd like to learn a little bit more about your professional journey.
Sure, Melissa. Nice to meet you here on this podcast. It's my pleasure to be here. Yes, you're right. It's been a long time since I have been in this IT profession, but I feel like my career path has been very interesting. The way I started in the beginning, I actually built a product called the SQL RF, where we had a contention. Actually, we named it Picasso in the beginning, and Picasso family came back upon us and had a royalty put on us. So we had to change the name to SQL RF. But that was truly my entry into the software development world. After that, I did some consulting with various tech companies here within Memphis, Tennessee. And eventually I landed in an international paper. At international paper, I think that's where I truly grew as a IT professional. I did everything there, from development to lead developer to architecture, got into some project management, then eventually landed into the reporting and the data area, where we were building SAP business objects, cubes, and reports. So that was sort of a different flavors. Pretty much every year I got to experience an international paper. International paper is where I did my MBA also, and that actually led me into the management. That was the first time I got into a management role in IP. And soon enough, I got an offer from FedEx to go join their pricing program. So I was in FedEx for about 8 years. Half of that time was with leading that pricing role. And again, a very, very rewarding role there. I was working with about 150 team members. That is where I actually learned what it means to deliver a business capability as a horizontal capability. We often work in our silos, and that's where I actually started to learn how do we bring that horizontal alignment when we are delivering a business capability. But the interesting part about that pricing program was because the entire recommendation engine of how we offer pricing was based on decision science, was based on business analytics. And that kind of revived the interest I had in international paper in the data space. So when a lateral move came in FedEx to move into a big data area, I just went and grabbed it. So that was the role. I started to really enjoy the data aspects of it. We had the big data environment, Hadoop environment. I was working with a lot of business partners in doing the delay predictions and forecasting when a package can be delivered. So it was a very interesting space to be in. And then I got this opportunity at AutoZone. I've been here for about 3 years. And it's again been a very rewarding experience because we are building the data lake, we are implementing data quality procedures, implementing data governance, just letting the business explore the data in a very different way than what they have been doing. So yes, it's been a rewarding career, a lot of growth, slow growth, but growth irrespective.
AutoZone is just as much customer facing as it is with the brick and mortar stores. And AutoZone is also global, isn't that correct?
That is correct. It's headquartered in Memphis, one of the few companies which is headquartered in Memphis. Yes.
Your role within the data management team, can you give me a little bit more about not necessarily what specifically you're doing, but what is a director of data management? What are the roles and responsibilities of somebody in that space?
Yeah, so AutoZone is a very interesting company. I feel like the leadership is probably one of the most humble leadership I have ever worked for. In fact, we don't care about our titles. We call everybody's title is customer satisfaction. So as you said, yes, it's a very customer facing. We care about customers the most. We put customers first in everything. So that is very true. So my responsibility here is to make sure that I provide, or me and my team provides the data to our business analysts and the business intelligence team in the easiest, fastest way possible, plus also make that data easy to find, ensure that data is of quality, and then also taking the data to the next level. How do I productionize some of the insights they're generating on a day-to-day basis and integrate them within the IT applications? So it's enablement of data insights through the delivery of data products is what my responsibility is.
I want to touch a little bit on something you mentioned around data quality. I read an article or an interview that was online recently about you, and there was a paragraph there with the term reoccurring audit. I'd like to learn a little bit more about what this means.
Sure. So the paper really was mostly focused on the data quality when it comes to the master data. So, in the data space, you have a master data, and then you have the transactional data. And transactional data is, I still think it's easier to govern when it comes to the quality, but master data becomes the biggest issue because master data could be coming from different sources. And those sources can have data structures in different formats. They may not even be coming from our own internal source. They could be coming up from outside as well. So how do I unify that data? That's the one issue. And then the second is continuously make sure that data is unified as we go forward with the process. So one of the big things I had called out is when we start the data quality processes around a master data, you have to do a one-time cleanup. That has to be done, and that's going to take forever. But we cannot stop at one time. So that's where the recurring audit comes in. We can put processes in place. Once you have cleaned up the data, we can put processes in place to ensure that data is correct, and we are making sure that we are not creating duplicates. But that recurring audit ensures that the processes which we put in place are actually working. We have found in several scenarios that after one-time cleanup, after putting processes, we still missed some opportunities which were then caught by recurring audit. So that's why I constantly say that cleanup or unification is not a one-time activity. It has to become almost like a muscle memory that monthly or once a quarter, we are going to do the audit to ensure that all the processes which we put in place and all the measures we put in place are working accordingly to the processes which we wanted to put in.
I want to clarify when we talk about master data and this one-time cleanup, the way I understand that is I take all of the data, all of my master data, wherever it's coming from, procurement invoices, all of, let's just say, not just spend data, but all master data. And I could ship that out to a third party, or I could do that in-house, but I'm normalizing my vendor names. I'm looking at maybe enriching some of my data, expanding some of the abbreviations like SS for stainless steel. I may then come back and classify that to maybe it's a UNSPSC or some sort of internal, custom code. Is that when I outline all of that, is that your definition of a one-time kind of cleanup?
That is correct. Okay. Yes, absolutely. We see that a lot in the customer space, right? Especially being a retailer. For us, this applies to the customer the most. Customer vendors, those are all classic examples. But if you look at the customer space, you might be getting data from your online website. A customer comes and enters their name. The customer could be going to brick and mortar store and entering their information because they are either using a credit card or they want to sign up for some sort of a loyalty or reward program. Or we may source this data from external parties, right? Sometimes you get that data from external parties for marketing purposes too. So you could have many sources of data coming in. So how do you make sure that I do not have duplicates? Sometimes even within, well, we have seen some cases that even on the online website or when you go to our stores, we might be asking the customer to enter their information twice and do not catch that it's the same customer who came like 2 months ago or 2 years ago.
Right.
So the point of entry of the data is always important for sure, but even if you fix those issues on the point of entry, you will still see the issues because you are sourcing the data from different sources. And when you're combining it, how do you create a one single master record of a customer?
A lot of companies I've spoken to will say, we'll do the one-time data cleanup that you've referenced. Again, both customer, internal stakeholders, spend data, et cetera. And then maybe we'll review it or kind of re-evaluate that data once every quarter. And we'll do that for a year. And then after that, we should be done. But what I'm hearing from you is it's not a let's do it for a year and do it for, every 3 months and then clean it up. In fact, I think what I'm hearing from you is there needs to be dedicated resources that are constantly reevaluating this data. And you even mentioned on a monthly basis.
Yes, that's correct. Because the issue with what you mentioned, maybe for a year or so, the data is being generated from underlying applications, right? Those applications are continuously changing. We live in IT world. Our requirements, our screens, how we are gathering the data is constantly changing. So if you did that activity for 1 year, and then say the company or say AutoZone installs a brand new POS in the stores, right?
Right.
That can introduce different kinds of data sets, data elements, complexities. So if I did that activity one time or even for a year, I will not catch new issues anymore. So yes, I think one of the things we are trying to do is sort of figure out what is the tolerance of the data. Data quality is, I don't think so you can ever achieve full data quality ever, right? You have to see what is the tolerance of data issues in your data for your business partners or for your internal customers. So that tolerance is going to define how far do I take my data quality, right?
Okay.
So what we say is like, is it of high value? Is this data set of high value with a lot of issues, or is it a high value with little issue, less issues, right? So based on that, that describes the tolerance of data quality issue on a certain data set. So that tolerance really should define how frequently you are auditing the data. So if, say, I'll just go back to the customers, right? So the customer data is 100% of a very high importance. But if I realize in my last audit that my data is in a good state, it's at 70%, say, data, it's at 70% clarity or quality, then at that point in time, I can say, okay, next audit could be 3 months after, not next month. So you have to define that tolerance, working with the business partners to eventually come up with what's going to be your audit interval.
So it's taking the concepts of understanding my risk threshold and
Correct.
really applying that on top of my data quality and understanding what are my risk thresholds for how I define what is data quality and how willing am I to fluctuate.
That is correct. Yes.
All of this is under the data management team, which does this eventually roll up into a chief data officer, or is this still under the IT group?
So yes, in AutoZone, we do not have a separate role for data officer as yet. So right now it just rolls into IT. We roll into CIO. That is correct. But all these responsibilities do fall into data management. So for me, I think data governance is such a big umbrella that what we focus on mainly is my data all available at one place, single source of truth in one place. The second concept we always keep in mind is the findability. And then the third aspect is, how do I govern in a small way, I don't want to elaborate governance too much, but in a small way, how do I govern the KPIs and metrics which we create on top of these data sets? That if these are the minimum 3 things we can implement in a data strategy, then we have enabled our business to really leverage that data.
The other thing that was mentioned in the article around reoccurring audit was the reference to data users. I want to clarify, because a lot of times people think, oh, well, the data users are the folks that are manipulating and working on the data, such as yourself. And then sometimes I'm told, no, the data users are the individuals that are consuming the data. And then sometimes I'm told, no, Melissa, data users are the individuals who are creating the data. What is your understanding of data users?
To me, it's all of the above.
Right.
Honestly, it's all of the above.
Okay.
Let's start from the top, right? The biggest consumers of data are the business analysts, data scientists who are using the data generated by the company or from external sources to deliver those visualizations, dashboards, machine learning models, and all of those insights. So I think that's the highest top tier level. They are the eventual consumers of the data. Then it's the enablers like us, right? My team is the enabler. So then we are also data users because we are using the data to enable someone else to deliver insights. We are using the data to clean up the data. We are using the data to make data more understandable. We are using the data to understand where the data is coming from. So we are constantly using the metadata around the data to ensure that data is available for our ultimate consumers. And then eventually the application designers or application developers who are standing up those enormous applications, which are the data point of entry, to me, they're also data users. So as you said, all of the above in my mind are the data users, but eventually we are working to enable the top consumer of the data scientists and the business analysts. Sometimes I even say that our leadership is data users, right? Even though you have created the reports and dashboards to them and delivered to them, but they are the ones who are looking into that report to understand the data, how that data impacts the ROI of the company. They are also the data users who are eventually getting the value or getting the information from those products which we create to eventually help company grow.
There's just one last question around data quality. You mentioned a moment ago that you didn't think that data quality could be 100% achievable. I want to go back to that statement because as soon as you said that, I immediately was thinking to myself, I understand why you would say that, because just in this conversation, you've always got a new influx of data coming in from new sources or even from the same sources, but maybe the data has been modified in some way based on how it was entered. So is it really that it's not necessarily that data quality isn't 100% achievable? It's this constant momentum with a group of dedicated resources to constantly, as you mentioned earlier, perform these reoccurring audits.
So it's 2 ways. So as you said, that is correct. Like the world is changing constantly. The entry points of data are changing constantly. So how do you constantly engage to correct the data quality? So that's certainly a point. But I also think at some point in time, the return from extensive data quality processes start to become increasingly lower, right? So if you achieve 80% quality and then you're getting the benefit, pretty much all of the benefit, does it really make sense for us to go after that last 20%? Are we really going to generate value of that last 20%? And that's why I think that tolerance factor becomes a huge thing, a huge metric to follow. Is our business teams or is our business partner okay with this tolerance of data quality, or do we need to go further up? Do we need to continue to increase that tolerance?
So the company you work for and other retail, oriented companies, the customer oftentimes drives what goes on from a product perspective how services are fluctuated. And as the customer becomes more educated with more information and understanding how to use that information, I find that a lot of times, internally, the organization, we're constantly adjusting more frequently to try to match that consumer demand.
Mhm.
What else are we missing from the customer that would allow us to really provide them with more improved or more enhanced value-based opportunities?
So I think in this day and age, with a lot of compliance regulation around data coming up,
Yes.
one of the big things would be really nice to see is, as a customer, you and I, what is the information I can make available to my retailer or to the place I do business with so they can make better recommendations for me, right? So yes, I'm in retail company, so but if I put myself out as a customer,
Mhm.
say I'm a Nordstrom shopper, right? Say I'm a Nordstrom shopper.
Mhm.
And if I give them, these are my choices, this is what looks good on me, these are the sizes, but I am controlling the information which I'm providing to Nordstrom. If I can provide that information and they can make better recommendations, they can send me an email, well, there's this item is now on discount, I know you have liked it in the past. So they can make those more customized recommendation, almost like a segment of one
Mhm.
recommendation for me. I think that would be one of the game changers. I don't know when will that come. We were in that Vilda the conference which we had in New York, and we talked about the metaverse, and we did talk about what through the metaverse we can ourselves expose for my information. I think we are getting there, but how far it will go and how long it'll go to that extreme is what I'm curious about. But I think that could be the big game changer in my perspective. Yes, keep the compliance, GDPR,
Mhm.
CCPA, all of that aside, but then what information as a customer I am ready to share with the entity I do business with so they can treat me as a segment of one.
Right. That will definitely be something I will continue to follow up on. That's that's a really good prediction. As we come to, as we come to the end of this conversation, is there anything else you'd like to add? Any lessons learned or thoughts that you'd like to leave behind?
Yeah, I think one of the things as a woman professional, I think I would certainly like to say out loud here is that in the beginning stages, I hesitated to take harder roles because I wanted to make sure that I am giving enough time to my daughters.
Mm.
But as I have grown in my career, what I've realized is that we women are strong people. We are strong human beings. If given the challenge to handle two different responsibilities of home and work, we will step to it. So my advice to all the women out there, young women out there, is then if a opportunity comes knocking on your door, do not let it go because you're not confident that you can tackle two different kinds of responsibilities. If there is any time anyone has any sort of hesitation, please do reach out to me so I can convince you to take that big step. That's what I would like to say.
That's very gracious of you. You can find her on LinkedIn. I'm hoping that you will get, I'm hoping that some folks will take you up on your offer.
That would be awesome. Melissa, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
No, thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.